Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another day, another broadcast here on the Cranky Ducklings. I'm of course Live VIP, and with me I'm joined by some interesting players here as we are not going into our typical broadcast. I do apologize, but originally we were slated to actually go over Code for Giants Cup number 22, but unfortunately we actually don't have those replays available. At the time we were covering another event last week, so we will have to reschedule. We'll have to reschedule the Code for Giants Cup, but the show must go on, and I was accumulating a bunch of replays to go over, so now's the time. Now is the time to go over said replays, to go over some of these matches, especially this first one between Captainfisch and Zergtanis. Let's go. So we do have a couple of matches here ahead of us. Again, when it comes to Code of Giants Cup, we'll most likely reschedule to next week or the week after. We'll see, because next week is Code of Giants Cup 23, and we'll catch up on 22 a little bit after that instead. So we'll get into some Brazilian StarCraft soon. TM. We'll get to it eventually. We'll get to it. So I do apologize for the lack of Code for Giants Cup, but instead we do have other matches ahead of us here. Now, for those that are curious, Captainfisch and Zergtanis, for those that are maybe in our Discord, you would know that these matches were held right after Sparkling Tuna Cup a couple of days ago. Basically, during Sparkling Tuna Cup, Captainfisch did actually win the random raffle. He won the random raffle. He was very grateful for it, but he also wanted to give the winnings to someone else. I think at the time he wanted to give it to another person, and Zergtanis stepped up. Zergtanis was like, yo, how about we play a show match? How about we play a show match and the winner gets the earnings? The winner gets the random raffle. And Captainfisch is like, okay, let's go. So they played out a best of three. I believe they played out their best of three at the same time as Wardy TV Monday, so that would have been a couple of days ago. We were of course busy casting and covering Wardy TV Monday, and alas, they did play out their little show match, and we're here to cover those matches. We're here to broadcast that best of three, so that's going to be our first initial replay cast. First best of three. Let's go. Let us go. Also, Hyper One did redeem another replay as well. Just like last week, Hyper One did redeem a Jungle Maze 2 replay. I don't know what I'm stepping into. At least now I have a better idea of what Jungle Maze is. Now, after covering that one match last time, I feel like we have the gist of it for the most part, and I guess we'll be jumping into that later on towards the end of the broadcast. We'll also have a best of five. We have a best of five between Pili Pili and Cats. They apparently played a show match also a couple of days ago as well, so we do have matches ahead of us here. Before we jump into things though, big shout out to Draconics in the chat. Papi ga. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Bienvenidos. Big shout out to Draconics, of course, the Peruvian Terran player. We did cover Draconics' group when it comes to the HSL, and the HSL playoffs are going to be next week, so get ready for that. Likewise, we're going to be covering some HSL groups later on in the week as well. Also, shout out to Cosmic in the chat. Shout out to Baby Links. God, good to see you. Again, redeeming that first Quacker, and I do plan on having a cheeky ladder session after this broadcast as well, as this should be a bit of a shorter broadcast. We'll see though. We'll see. Shout out to Cosmic. Cosmic asking about Hyper's replay program. I am somewhat familiar. I know that Hyper One. I know that replays are broken when it comes to older patches, and Hyper One did come up with a fix. I'm very unfamiliar with that fix though. I haven't delved into that myself, so unfortunately I'm not too comfortable trying to Frankenstein or trying to kind of do that live at the moment. So unfortunately, if you do have some replays though that are on the current patch, I'd be more than happy to cast. More than happy to jump into it. Just as a heads up. Otherwise, good to see you. And yeah, we have our initial matchup. We have our initial TvZ. Now, in a sense, I was spoiled a little bit to this, just because Zergtanis did say something about one of these games, so I kind of know what I'm stepping into. I'm a little bit anxious about it. Let's go. Let's go, Bobby. Let's go. Jumping into our first best of three. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of first line, we have our Australian Zerg player, the Red Zerg, representing Armada Angels, or Angels Armada. It is Zergtanis. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have as opponent, we have the German Terran player, the Blue Terran, representing Fish. It is Captainfisch. Oh, the favorite, Pappy, the favorite. Here we go. And again, just for some greater context, once again, Captainfisch, he did win a random raffle here for the Sparkling Tuna Cup. He won 5 USD, but he did offer to give it to another competitor if they could bring him down in a best of 3. Let's go. Let us go. So we are going to be settling in. Again, we did cover Zergtanis earlier this week against Hunted Swarm in the ZvZ, and we'll see what kind of builds and shenanigans he has in store for us here stepping into this ZVT. So far, going to be Hatch first. Hatch first opener here out of Zergtanis, going for a Hatch pool. Interesting. Going for delayed gas, delayed tech. This can turn into a greedier build here, into a faster third base, into a gasless opener. We'll see how Zergtanis does piece it all together. Meanwhile, across the map, we do have a 2-Rax Reaper start out of Captainfisch. Oh boy, hyper aggression here. So 2-Rax Reaper out of our Terran player. I say 2-Rax Reaper, it's being constructed in a kind of a weird way. Typically, you would actually throw down the Raxes here at the natural. The reasoning for this, one, it does reduce the time it takes for the Reapers to get across the map, but also you're able to make use of these buildings, make use of these Raxes, and be able to have some SimCity and work towards that transition into the natural base, so you can expand behind it and get into an economic game after your Reaper aggression. The way that it's being done here means that the CC will most likely have to be on the high ground, or it can be sometimes difficult to actually get on the low ground as you are vulnerable to a Ling run by, and a Ling counterattack. So I'll say this is an inefficient variant of a 2-Rax Reaper, but we're getting into it nonetheless. Likewise, across the map, Zergtanis is going for, again, delayed gas. Late gases here for Zergtanis. Earlier spawning pool means earlier queens. When it comes to the earlier pool, you can approach this in a couple different ways. You can try to hide the Lings and send them across the map and try to get some damage and even delay the CC. Otherwise, you could skip your Lings and just defend with pure queen and try to be a little bit greedier. So it just needs to. But yeah, we'll see which one he goes for. For the time being, Lings, they try to move out, but alas, the Reaper does catch them. Likewise, SCV is in position at the third base location to delay. And so far, Captainfisch having a very strong start. He does delay the third base. He does contain Zergtanis. Zergtanis from here, is amassing Lings, but again, Ling speed is very late and very delayed because of the build of choice. And that means that these Lings, they won't be able to get much done. They're going to be, I guess, safety Lings to keep him safe and sound. Queen has to rotate down from the high ground. With help of 2 queens, these Reapers, they should not get much done. So Zergtanis, he will defend, but again, his droning here is interrupted, so his saturation is it's struggling. It is struggling here. And again, he might also not be too familiar with 2-Rax Reaper and with how uncommitted it is. Remember, it's only 3 Reapers. Only 3 Reapers back at home. Captainfisch is expanding, is getting his 3rd CC in the main base. Overlord does not see the expansion, so Zergtanis might think this is more committed than it really is. And Reapers, they get into the main. 1, 2 drones going to be going down. 3 drone kills. Very nice damage here by Captainfisch. Zergtanis having a very hard time keeping up. And again, because of the later gas, later Ling speed, it means that these Reapers should not go down. They should have free reign. They should have just free control here of the bases. Likewise, across the map, we have Stim on the way, turning this into a 2-on-1 variation. Again, I say variation, it's going to be 3 CC 2-on-1, so very economic follow-up here out of Captainfisch. A solid follow-up as well. Dips in, and again, droning still very delayed here for Zergtanis. Trying to saturate his base, is still stuck on 2. No 3rd, and at this point it might be wise just to go for a 2-base all-in. Right now Zergtanis is far enough behind where trying to get into a longer macro game is going to be an uphill battle. It's going to be very much so an uphill battle here for Zergtanis. So going into like either a Bane bust or a Roach all-in, or maybe even trying to like rush into a faster lair, into like Muta play, something a little bit more unexpected or something dedicated on 2 bases, feels like it has to be the play here just because Captainfisch is just getting further ahead. Ling speed kicks in, the Queen does not go down. Whew, thankfully, Queen does survive. Reapers are cleaned up. Across the map, we do have Captainfisch setting in back at home. We have our safety bunker. Again, Stim is almost done. Right now, the only thing keeping Captainfisch back is the lack of starport, and we will delay the starport even further. Very committed here by Captainfisch. It looks like he's going to delay even further, get into a later starport, into eventually medevacs, into eventually a move out. Now, because it's going to be a later push out of Captainfisch, this does mean that Zergtanis has more time to himself across the map to try to stabilize. So he's getting 1-1 on the way. We have the lair on the way. That'll be for Baneling speed, so it's going to be for Ling Bane here from Zergtanis. We'll see if he does decide to go for the all-in. I say this just because his droning is still subpar. There we go, we have a couple of drones on the way. Oof, now he's taking more gases. He's taking, I would say, too many gases at this point, at this stage of the game, just because, I mean, what can we really do with all this gas? We're not going into mutas or hydras. It is Ling Bane, something that's very gas light and not as intensive on gas income. So right now these gases are going to be hurting Zergtanis more than anything. He needs mineral income more than anything in this moment. Now getting his third base, late third base here for Zergtanis. And the way things are going here, Captainfisch just has to chill. Just has to calm things down, get his third base up and running, wait for his medevacs, and by the time he moves out, it's gonna be a tough hold. It's gonna be a tough hold for Zergtanis, depending on how much Ling Bane he has amassed. For now, Zergtanis, he's getting up to 2 base saturation. Again, as you can see here, Zergtanis has an excess of gas. This is why I mentioned earlier that taking these gases too soon is hurting Zergtanis, as it's taking away from his otherwise mineral income. He's trying to morph in as much Ling Bane as he can. You can see here, Zergtanis out of minerals, excess gas. And here comes the move out. Here comes the push. Again, Captainfisch was only waiting for those medevacs. The medevacs have arrived. Now it's time to move out. Just now starting 1-1, getting to his own 5-rack setup. So 5 racks is on 3 bases, a standard setup here from Captainfisch on a 3-base economy. And we'll see what he can get done. So he does push. So he does move out. Bailing speed is still not yet ready. Zergtanis is going to have a hard time engaging. Nice target firing, gets the bailing. And likewise does hot pickup, saves 16 Marines. And again, all Captainfisch has to do is just control well, poke in, deny a creep, build up back at home, and macro out of this. Zergtanis, for the time being, is hyperfixated on Ling Bane, is going to be taking up into a Spire and into Infestation Pit. Double Spire, once again, a lot of resources invested into tech here, less so into the economy, as we're still on under 3-base economy here for Zergtanis. So Zergtanis in the long run can't really afford this. He can't really afford this kind of tech. Oh! Once again, nice target firing on those Banelings. Captainfisch does pull away, bleeding out 3 Marines. So far, very efficient trades. And they're back at home. 4th Command Center. 4th Command Center on the way. Captainfisch building up to, I mean, towards the mid-game, towards a later game. See, Pecoeta in the chat, you're an animal, papi, you're an animal. Jesus. Pecoeta. Calm down, papi, calm down. Hive has begun, but again, Zergtanis can't really make use of that Hive right now. Trying to keep up with drop play. Likewise, Captainfisch settling in, getting ready for his 4th expansion. Has yet to move out, and as a result is allowing Zergtanis to recover. Now is on 3-base saturation. A decent economy at this point here for Zergtanis, but again, we definitely could have gone here a lot sooner. And Captainfisch will be just being hyper efficient here with this army. So far, how many? 12 Marine kills. 12 Marines have gone down for 22 Lings, 3 drones, 3 Overlords, 10 Banelings. Solid trades here from Captainfisch, and here comes the main push. Here comes the main move out. He's got his bio tank. That's a lot of tanks. Ay, ay, ay. It's going to be 4 tanks, 50 Marines, a terrifying army. Mutas, they do nothing here defensively. Mutas, they're ideal harassing and picking off drops and chasing medevacs. But in a head-on fight like this, Mutas, they will be a non-factor. It's going to be all about that Ling Bane. And there's just not that much Ling Bane left over. The tank volley's going to be going up. Marines, they do kite back. They shut down the Ling Bane. The Mutas, they do fall one after the other. And with that, Captainfisch, he breaks through the main army. Okay, the Muta count not quite high enough. Likewise, on the Ling Bane on the ground. With that, Captainfisch will break through. Again, just a really solid start for Captainfisch with the initial opener. Zergtanis had a really rough early game and stumbled his way into the mid game. Boys being pulled, drones do go down. And Captainfisch does over well. GG. GG. Captainfisch, he will take a lead in the series. Whew. GG. Again, both players, they had their own quirks here, and again, like, I don't necessarily blame Zergtanis too much, just because I don't know how familiar he is with 2x Reaper. It's something that becomes a little bit more commonplace as you kind of progress through the game and progress through the ladder, but yeah, I'm not too sure if he's too familiar here. His response wasn't ideal, and again, he did fall behind quite heavily economically. I do think there were some opportunities for Zergtanis to potentially try to turn his kind of state into a 2-base all-in. I think that there still was an opportunity for that, especially earlier on, but the opportunity kind of came and went for that, and they ended up in a more macro game, which is where the Terran did thrive. But here we go, we're getting into game number 2, and spawning in the bottlenecking corner of Leylines, we have the Australian Zerg player, the Red Zerg, representing, oh, hello, representing Armada Angels. Okay, I thought we were going gas first. It is Zergtanis. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have the German Terran player, the Blue Terran, leading the series 1-0. It is Captainfisch. Here we go. So we have Zergtanis going for a hatch first. Does open up hatch first. And we'll see if he goes hatch pool again. I'll be honest, I wasn't really too fond of the opener of Zergtanis last game. I don't think it really accomplished much. You can go hatch pool and definitely go for later gases and try to cut corners in some way. As I mentioned before, with these earlier pool timings, you can go for earlier lings to get across the map. You can try to cut lings and just defend with queens. You can try to go for a faster third base and try to cut corners that way. There are definitely ways to play out hatch pool, but here I'm concerned, so far it looks like the same build, which means late gases and kind of a later setup in the early game. Meanwhile, this time Captainfisch going for I was going to say a standard opener. Does open single racks, but racks into reactor. This is a very greedy start from Captainfisch. Going to be racks into reactor into CC. What does this mean? This means no Reaper. No Reaper across the map, so scouting is going to be limited to the SCV. This means if Zergtanis did go for a 2-base all-in, if he did go for something like a hidden Roach Warren or a Baling Nest, there's a very high chance here that Captainfisch would not scout, would not be able to scout, would not be able to confirm. As yeah, Captainfisch is opening up Marine. Now, the purpose here of this opener from Captainfisch, one, as I mentioned, it's quite greedy here. The goal would be to hunt down the Overlord. The downside is that you do lack scouting information, so Captainfisch is going to be in the dark, but he will have Marines early on, and he can turn this into like a 2-on-1 Hellbat push. He can turn this into a 3cc 2-on-1. Regardless, he will have an abundance of Marines early on, and yeah, he has potential with this. Meanwhile, across the map, because there are no Reapers, of course, it means that Zergtanis is free to drone. As I say that, he does make an extra pair of Lings, so really safe play here by Zergtanis. But likewise, Lings and a third base is what he needs. Third base is delayed for our Zerg player here. There is an SCV on patrol trying to keep an eye on the third base timing. We'll see when Zergtanis, or if he does, take it. Likewise, Zergtanis, he stays in gas. We did take note of this last game as well. With all this excess gas here, okay, we're gonna make use of it. Let's go. Roach Warren has been thrown down. Let's go. Okay, so early Roach Warren. This I'm less fond of going for double Evo chambers. That is quite expensive this early on. I do like the early Roach Warren. I like the idea of going for an early Roach push, especially because of the opener. Remember, no Reaper, no Scout. Captainfisch has no idea what's going on, so Roaches, they can catch him off guard and they can bring him down, but again, a lot of this is going to come down to the timing here from Zergtanis. Now, the problem with double Evo chamber is that double Evo chamber and rushing to upgrades like this, I guess, is okay if you're trying to go for a longer game, but going for such an early Roach Warren screams that you want to go for an early push, which means these upgrades will be a non-factor, right? They're not going to help you when it comes to the early Roach timing. They're not going to help you when it comes to the all-in, assuming that this is an all-in. So because of that, this is kind of, I would say, a bit of a waste, a bit of an inefficient start here from Zergtanis. We'll see if he does get into Roach production. Right now, Zergtanis, he's banking up that lava. There we go, 5 Roaches are on the way. He can soon move out. And again, you can see that we're not really making use of these Evo chambers. Likewise, a more efficient use of the gas that is being spent here on these upgrades, he's going into 1-1, would be just Ling Ravager. Like imagine, okay, 5 roaches, reinforce with things, get across the map, and you would have the excess resources to morph in every roach into Ravagers to try to break his opponent. Assuming we wanted to go for it all in. Roaches are revealed, Captainfisch knows, he does scout this, behind this going for his own 1-1-1 into BC. Fusion core is on the way. Now Captainfisch, upon seeing all those roaches, now he knows to set up. There we go. Bunkers are on the way. Deepers are on the way. Now he's getting ready here for the Roach Ravager assault. We can see that Zergtanis is droning. And on the one hand, this tells me that these upgrades will come into play because we're getting ready for a longer game state. The downside, we're on 2 bases. At this point, we should already be saturated on 2 bases. We should already be having a saturation at the 3rd as well. The 3rd is incredibly late here for Zergtanis, so I'm very concerned about Zergtanis trying to get into a longer game. Once again, the gases are really early as well. That is going to be hurting Zergtanis, and the BC is coming. When it comes to Overlord scouting, typically the lair is late, but you can go for an Overseer scout. Once the lair finishes, we need to morph in that Overseer as quickly as possible, and I think there is a chance that Zergtanis will confirm what's going on. Oh, BC into mech out of Captainfisch. I mean, that is a common follow-up here, so yeah, that's gonna be a terrifying composition that Captainfisch is building up. Meanwhile, lair is done. Where's that Overseer? Again, we need that scout. Currently, Zergtanis in the dark does set up roach speed. Still stuck on 2 bases. Still no 3rd to speak of. And with that, that does mean that all of this is going to go unscouted. And Captainfisch, how many queens are there? I'm afraid to look. I'm afraid to look at the queen count. 2 queens, 0 spores, 1 BC can end the game. Straight up, 1 BC can kill both queens and can just wreak havoc and end the game on its own. So thankfully, Captainfisch is going the long way around. Instead of just teleporting across the map, and honestly, he should just teleport this early on. There's not going to be enough anti-air to really punish him too much, maybe to force him away, but he can get away with teleporting. Here he'll take the long way around. This will give Zergtanis the opportunity to actually make Hydras, as the Hydra Den is now done, but again, no 3rd base means limited income. 3rd base now being taken just as the BC is rolling on it. Not just BC, we have Yamato on the way as well for Captainfisch. Let's get into Yamato. Captainfisch moving in. We have Hellions on one end, we have BC on the other. We have a couple of Hydras in production. I mean, again, because this BC has taken so long, the Hydras will be able to come into play. This is on Captainfisch. As I mentioned, when you go for a BC opener like this, you are safe to just teleport across the map. So this was overly cautious from Captainfisch. So he does hit much later. Hydras are in position. And the first one goes down. Does get 1 Hydra. BC catches one of the Overlords. Likewise, we have Hellions running into the roaches. Another Hydra goes down. Where's the teleport? Where's the teleport? Oh no! Oh my god. Does teleport just in time. 3 HP. 1 shot away from going down. Does teleport back home. Does escape. And doesn't really get much done. He kills 4 Hydras and 1 drone and 1 Overlord. So all in all, this BC opener was lackluster. As we mentioned, like, time was of the essence. There was opportunity for Captainfisch, but again, just went for a more delayed move out and delayed aggression. He moves out with his 2nd BC across the map. Double Spire here from Zergtanis, but again, the economy is not where it needs to be to really sustain that. We need to drone as hard as we can. We need to saturate. I feel like this is something that a lot of players that are still getting into the game do learn over time, but especially when it comes to SE2, like, the economy is just such an important part, like, and that's where a lot of, like, build orders really, like, emphasize as well, just cutting corners or being as efficient as possible, getting your natural, getting your 3rd base on time, getting your 4th base as well, especially if you plan on going for a longer game state, like, knowing when it's safe to drone, like, I feel like that's one of those big, like, power spikes that a Zerg player gets when they're learning the game and when they improve, is getting a better idea of, as I mentioned, this just when it is safe to drone and when it isn't safe to drone, and when you can get away with being greedy and when you can't, right? Like, that's kind of one of those big moments, and that comes with experience. That comes with kind of getting a better idea on the flow of the game. Because if you delay it too long, then this happens, right? We got the BC coming in, every turn goes down. Ay, ay, ay. Corruptors are in production. But so far, these BCs, they're having free reign. They're enjoying themselves. Ah, no. Catching up some queens, getting some overlords. As both BCs do teleport back home. And Captainfisch is just enjoying his economy, getting to a 4th base as well, working towards Blue Flame, embracing his mech. Looks like one BC is not going to get caught out. Does likewise teleport back home in time. And Zergtanis still just trying to resaturate, trying to redrone. Reestablish that 3rd base. Yo, shout out to Holy Live in the chat. God, my God, thank you so much. Big shout out to Holy Live for subscribing with Twitch Prime for 26 months. That's a lot of months, baby. That's a lot of months. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for resubscribing. Do appreciate it. As we have more command centers on the way. To be honest, Captainfisch can just move out with this army. At this point, you can just push. You can even pull the boys if you really wanted to. There isn't really much at home to stop Captainfisch. He's just slowly looking to max out. He's almost there. He's almost maxed out. So just really secure play. We can see Captainfisch looks like he wants to wait for his Thors. So Thors are on the way. We have 1-1 upgrades here from Zergtanis. And again, sure, he's going to have some okay upgrades. But because of his lack of economy, 2-2 is heavily delayed. So again, the initial rush into Deliver Chamber wasn't worth it as we didn't quite get into 2-2. Likewise, just now trying to redrone. Now getting a 4th base. Once again, prioritizing gases. And here come those VCs. Now, there may be enough anti-air to deter them. It's going to be close. The Ravagers will help. Mineral Line's going to be going down. The Yamato's there pop up. Ooh, and yeah, there just aren't many Corruptors left over. Oh, the Wilds do connect. Hey. Not bad. 1 BC good. Let's go. Gets 1 BC. Again, thanks to those miles. Meanwhile, Captainfisch is maxed. Captainfisch, he is maxed out. He has his Thors, has his tank-based army. Can soon move out across the map. Back at home, Zergtanis still trying to drone, has a hive, working towards hive upgrades, but the army is lacking. At this point, it is just a numbers game here. And a maxed out mech army is a terrifying thing to witness. It's terrifying, Bobby. Now, to be fair, this army is mainly Hellion and Hellbats. There aren't that many tanks and there aren't that many Thors, so this is a more manageable maxed out mech army, but only if there was likewise a maxed out army from the Zerg side of things. Unfortunately, that isn't really the case here. And Captainfisch does move in. Tanks will siege. Yeah, massive tank shots here on the Zerg army. On the Roaches, on the Hydras, and the Thors, they will keep the BC safe. So a solid setup here from Captainfisch. So he does move in. Yeah, and with that he overwhelms. He overwhelms the main army, the Roaches, Hydras, and Corruptors all go down. The base has fallen, GG gets called, and Captainfisch will take the series 2-0. GG. Whew. GG, well played. Captainfisch, he will keep his money. We'll keep his money. Let's go. Delta hold on those 5 USD. Again, just for some greater context, for those that are curious, Captainfisch did win the random raffle over the weekend during Sparkling Tuna Cup, and did offer to give that money to another viewer, another competitor. Zergtanis did step up, but alas, does fall here to Captainfisch. GG, well played. GG, well played. Personally, when it comes to the overall builds and the overall ideas, I am quite fond of Zergtanis going into Roaches in game 2. Like, if you recall, I was very excited for that. It was working out really well, just because, if you recall, Captainfisch didn't scout, but the execution there, it felt a little bit, maybe, what's the word to use here? I was gonna say misguided. Like it felt a little bit unfocused. What I mean by that is, as we were saying at the time, sure, we were rushing into a roach warren, but at the same time, double evo chamber means we're not rushing roaches, we're not rushing into aggression, that we use more defensively instead, where I do feel like there was a lot of opportunity missed there using them aggressively, right? Going for a roach ling ravager all in there in that early game, having momentum and overwhelming Captainfisch. Definitely there was potential there to get damage done. Likewise, unfortunately, we saw lack of scouting as well, and part of that lack of scouting and part of that uncertainty also most likely leads into the lack of droning, right? So we mentioned before that there is definitely a learning curve when it comes to knowing how and when to drone, and it did feel like because Zergtanis was stuck at home and did have limited scouting information, again, droning in bases and expanding was definitely struggling there in that game. Regardless, GG, well played. With that, congratulations, Captainfisch. When it comes to his play, I mean, solid overall. I do think definitely could have been a little bit more aggressive with their initial BC opener. Likewise, the 2x Reaper execution in the previous game was unique, to say the least. But I mean, it worked. Did work out in the end. GG, well played. That leads us into our next series here, so congratulations to Captainfisch. That leads us into our next best of 5. Here we go. We have some old school players. Big shout out to Pili, by the way. Pili, he is, I would say, I guess, an old school retired player at this point, but as of a couple of weeks ago, he started streaming again. I was pleasantly surprised, but out of nowhere, he started streaming again. He started playing again. Great to see the return of Pili. I don't think he intends to necessarily compete, but he's like playing in his free time. He's playing and streaming in his free time, so it's great to see him back. Likewise, Cats did step into the ring as well for this best of 5 show match versus Pili. Let's go. Let us go.